Hi, and welcome to the Banker's View from Sibos video series here in Toronto. I'm Joy Macknight, Deputy Editor at the Banker, and I'm joined by Leila Fourie, who is CEO of the Australian Payments Network. Thank you so much for joining us, Leila. Can you tell me a little bit about the move to the new payments platform, the real-time payments in Australia? What were some of the challenges that you faced, and then how were they overcome?
Well, we're very excited to be at the end of the road, about to go live now, and it seems like a long time ago that all of those challenges were overcome. I think the first major challenge with any large program was making sure that we had consensus. You have a wide variety of stakeholders with different priorities and different perspectives, and my predecessor did an excellent job in coordinating and managing through the process. Once we had consensus and a shared vision, we had to identify and select the correct solution, and the vendor process was a rigorous process. We went with Swift because they were the quickest to produce a layered architecture which really aligned with our vision. And that was, once we'd identified the vendor, the real question was, if we build it, will they come? And we saw most certainly from all of the financial institutions that based on the very valuable time that they were offering, plus the massive cost that they were incurring, that they were clearly on board and supportive. And I think the most important thing was to identify a creative and innovative solution, which we would go live with, which was the first overlay service called OSCO. And we believe that that's most definitely likely to make sure that they come when we build it, when we bring it.
Can you explain a little bit more about the overlay service?
The overlay service is a person-to-person payment solution which will use the very sophisticated addressing service, and I will in real time be able to transfer money to you using your mobile number or your email address. And if I go out to a restaurant, I can send you a push message to split the bill. So it's a really simplistic solution, and we're very excited in Australia about the launch.
Excellent. There's been other jurisdictions that are planning to go live this year as well with the real-time payments. Do you think interoperability will happen? Do you think that's sort of an end goal in terms of then you can do actually cross-border real-time payments?
I think interoperability is a multi-pronged problem. There are regulatory differences between jurisdiction, privacy requirements, there are different security standards, and most importantly, different technology solutions. Now, more than 25 countries are already in the process of or have gone live with real-time systems. And the trick is to knit them together into a contiguous whole. And Swift's GPI solution goes a long way. I think we've got a way to go, but certainly that's the next frontier, and it's a very important area of focus for us as a global economy.
At this conference, we've seen a lot of talk around fraud, and obviously card-not-present fraud is still very high. So let's say 78% of fraud is card-not-present. What more can be done to address this issue?
Our card-not-present fraud is our biggest fraud priority in the country. While Australia's fraud levels are lower than what we're seeing in many of the other jurisdictions, the rate of growth, and particularly in card-not-present, is a concern. We're working together as an industry to increase the merchant awareness and education. We are introducing new authentication tools. We are working on a card tokenization program which would preclude the very sensitive card details from being accessible. And our merchants are working really hard to make sure that they're PCI compliant. We've also done some very interesting research with our consumers to identify the impact of fraud and to look at what we need to do to improve that process. And we're working with law enforcement on an ongoing basis. So we're attacking this at all angles.
Excellent. So my last question is really around, you hosted a hackathon around payments. What were the results?
Our hackathon was very exciting and was enormously successful. The theme was how to improve daily life or to resolve a crisis situation, and we had a number of really interesting apps. There were 23 teams. The winning apps in Melbourne involved a crowd sharing platform for people who had been involved in a natural disaster. We have 5,000 fires a month in Australia, and in Sydney it was a solution that used payments profiles to determine the most appropriate reward system. Now, the unorthodox apps caught my eye, and they were really interesting. One team built a dating app which based the matches on your payments profiles. Now, I'm not in the dating arena, but I think that would be quite a successful app. And another team in Sydney built a mental health app, and basically that app uses your payment profiles to determine if your mental health and stress levels are deteriorating. And for a recovering addict or a recovering alcoholic, sometimes you may want your sponsor or your supporter to receive these alerts. So the customer themselves could receive the alerts, or these could be shared with other people who are supporting you in your journey. So lots of incredibly exciting apps, but for me the biggest lesson was the collaboration that we saw both between the large players and between the fintech and the banking community.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for your insights, Leila.
Pleasure.